Hi and welcome back to another episode of Sprue Talk. Today I'm joined by Matt, our design manager, and Ethan, a product designer, both who work on the Airfix team. Welcome back, Matt.
Hi, Dan.
And welcome, Ethan, to the first time of Sprue Talk.
Hello, should we get?
Hopefully. Start on a positive.
Yeah,
good. So we thought today we would talk about the design experience. Hence why we've brought two designers in, and they can talk to you about all sorts of things, when they started and how they find the whole process and what they enjoy, etc., etc. But before we get into that, I just wanted to cover off some latest releases and certainly what's coming up in October 2022, just in case you're watching this in the future. You never know, could be. I guess everyone will be. So latest releases and updates. So in 70-second scale, we've just released the Heinkel 111 with it's just a straight reissue, so the same decal schemes as it's been seen before, and then the Lightning F2A. Is that one of yours?
The 70-second scale one. I think a couple of people worked on that, but not me.
No. The Lightning includes two new decal schemes not seen in our range previously. So they're out now on our website and all good retailers. And then coming up for October, we've got a huge list of products hopefully arriving this month. Containers, obviously pending. Which I'm not going to go through the full list. We'll put that in the description of the video. The key item to note, though, is the Gloucester Meteor F8, brand new tool from Airfix. It's not the first time we've done a Meteor or had a Meteor in the range, but this is a brand new tool from us in 70-second scale. It's a beautiful kit there. I've Paramjit's painted one up for us, so I've put that on the table there for you to see. And then other things of note, mid-October we're also due the brand new 48 scale Avro Anson, which is one of yours.
Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
Exciting, yeah. Which does look amazing. The tooling for that is so crisp. I know photos of that are available on our website and the wider web. Nothing from you coming out just yet?
No, too
new, but we'll go through that.
Will be coming eventually.
Yeah, we'll go through that in a minute. And then amongst those two releases, we've got a number of vintage classics re-releases as well, which I'm sure you're all excited to see. Right, that's products done. I've got a list of questions, and this is going to be a bit tricky because Matt, how long have you been here for?
About 13 years now.
13 years. Ethan?
About 10 months, I think.
Yeah. So that I've tried to split the questions out for you guys, so you get some airtime, basically.
Nice.
Otherwise, Ethan can't talk about the 3 projects that you've worked on.
Yeah.
So that makes life a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
And even if we try to talk about what relates to them, that's even going to be
a bit of a difficult. Exactly. Could very easily give away anything I've been doing.
Yeah. So if he does, we're just obviously going to have to bleep stuff out, but chip in as we go through. But I'm sure a lot of the questions will be relevant for you as well. So 13 years, 10 months. What did you do before you joined here, Matt?
So before I joined Airfix, I spent a period of time as a product manager for an industrial piping company. So it was more interesting than it sounds. I spent some time in Switzerland and Germany, and then unfortunately got made redundant from there. And then I went to work for the Environment Agency. Wasn't my thing. And then, thank God, a role came up here, which I jumped on. Came down for an interview, spent a long time nagging our head of HR to let me know their decision, and eventually I think they just got bored of me phoning up every Monday, and they gave me a job, and I'm still here. So
that's cool. Yeah. And I guess that would have been Martin, your line manager, has always been your line manager.
Yeah.
Because your role, whilst it's evolved in that 13 years, you've always worked on Airfix, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you ever touched on any of the other brands?
Well, some of the CAD designs I've done have been used for Scanextric cars, and I also worked on the roof of a Hornby locomotive. Did a bit of surfacing. I think it was a Class 78 or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, did a bit of work on the roof of a loco.
Locals, trains, that really upset them.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Ethan, same question to you. Okay, I know you've only been here 10 months.
Yeah.
And quickly took over from me as being the new boy.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
That's all right.
What did you do? So you're relatively fresh out of uni, aren't you?
Literally, probably about a year ago, finished uni, which was product design course. So already sort of in the field. Then placement-wise, I did like industrial lighting, just general sort of stuff. And then worked at Lego as well, doing like model kits really. I've always wanted to do like toy stuff, model stuff. So just natural trajectory really. So I think when I applied here, I'd already had some of the skills and I was super interested in it. And I luckily got the job there. It's been great ever since.
Yeah, Matt decided to recruit you.
Yeah.
Which was, I hope you make him a cup of tea every day.
Well, I didn't have to give him too much money, but he did get me.
But enough.
Yeah, enough.
Did you ever think that you would work on the brand?
No, I mean, for me, it was a household brand since as far back as I can remember, and it really did seem quite surreal when I first came down here. There was a big Hornby sign over the door.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the time Trevor Snowden was still working on the brand, and I'd heard of his,
Snowden.
Yeah, sort of heard of him like through internet forums and magazines. To be working alongside him was really interesting. We had lots of yarns to spin and stories to tell. And certainly my dad grew up building Airfix kits as well, and my uncles. And he still had all of his old Airfix models from when he was younger in a couple of big tea chests up in the loft, and I used to get them out and play with them. And it's
quite surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, and you really do feel like you're sort of a custodian of the brand.
Hmm.
He's hopefully going to be around. The brand's going to be around for many years to come. So.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Ethan?
Well, to be honest, I was thinking end goal, get sort of plastic model kits is something I've always been interested in. So I was like, I'll strive to get there. And I come out of uni and go straight into one. So to be honest, pretty lucky.
People
really.
are going to hate you.
I know. I mean, I kind of streamlined what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do from an earlier age.
Yeah.
So, it's just lucky an opportunity came up when it did, really.
So did you make Airfix models or plastic models when you were younger?
Yeah, I've made a few. It's like it's varying between like different themes really of like Airfix and other competitors,
wargaming,
really wargaming, lots of that. So I'd already been really interested in that side. My big thing is I love creating something, and then with kits like that you get to paint it. It's like a long experience really. Gets me away from everything else as well, like screens and that. You know how it is nowadays. And now I'm here and I'm just doing it for my job. and I'm designing it on a screen. Yeah.
Do you remember who introduced you to modelling?
I think it was actually none of my family really do much modelling, but I think when I was younger, I think they just got me a kit to shut me up really. Just put them in a corner, let them play away with it, and I just really enjoyed it since then. So yeah, it's always been on my mind.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's painful when he says when he was younger. That is painful. Anyway, carry on. How about you, Matt? I think you've mentioned before it was your father that got you into modelling.
Yeah.
But do you remember your first ever model kit? Was it an Airfix kit?
Yeah, there was a couple. The earliest one I remember making was actually a Matchbox Gloucester Meteor Night Fighter. That's the one that always sticks with me because you could make it with like all different. There was different canopies and different noses. You could make different versions. First Airfix kit I think was a Harrier GR3.
Okay.
We were painting that in the sort of grey and green camouflage.
Or RF Germany. Type
Yeah.
camo. Yeah.
And a red arrow. So this would have been in about 1992, I think. So yeah.
Would they have been hawks or gnats then?
I'm not that old.
Maybe.
No, it's a hawk. Definitely a hawk.
You are slightly older than me, I think. But anyway, good. That's cool. And do you remember was it an Airfix kit? Do you remember that?
I remember doing a tank, but I truthfully can't remember if it was Airfix or
Doesn't
not.
bode well for his free projects, does it?
No, something.
You can actually talk about them. No one would ever guess what they are. It's got wheels.
Yeah, got wheels, that's it.
Yeah. Good. Fine.
Nothing more.
Did you you both went to uni, I know that. Do you both study the same thing? Do you know you went to Loughborough, didn't you? What did you study?
Product design.
Okay.
Or industrial design,
same.
actually, technically, yeah. So yeah, we both did the same course, but at different places.
Yeah.
And where did you go?
Huddersfield.
Okay.
Yeah, not too far off Leeds.
Do you have any? We quite often get asked, by young adults and parents, how do you become a designer? Have you got any suggestions there for people that are looking at uni courses or just looking for a career in product design?
There's a couple of different aspects. There's to be a designer nowadays, you've got to have really top-notch like 3D CAD skills. So sort of playing around with some of the sort of the free CAD software that's available, super useful. And a lot of it is just down to appreciating. You've not got to be an engineer, but you've got to understand how things work, how things go together, how to break things down into their constituent parts. So that's probably a really good skill to, sort of get old things and take them to bits and investigate why one bit's made out of one material and
how it's been moulded, I guess.
Yeah.
As well. That's always amazed me that you're constantly looking at draft angles because if you do it one way, it never come out the tool. And
yeah, I've got 2 young children, and I'm forever sort of picking up their toys that are, with bits of plastic lying everywhere. But I sort of sit there just staring at them, wondering how they've engineered the moulds to make all these different shapes and working out where the ejector pins are, where the mould splits and things like that. So yeah, just looking at everyday objects and working out how they're made is a real
that's good.
Something to just something to think about.
Yeah, just visualise that with everything. I'm going to be doing that now, so thanks for that. Anything from you? Obviously very fresh, again mentioning age, but
it's such like a broad thing, product design, where there's so many different facets to it. So I think if you want to become a designer, as Matt was saying, to be honest, like, you need to know your CAD softwares. I mean, I probably know about 6 or 7. Even if you just dabble in them, it just makes it easier for if you have to pick up something new. And also just don't have to do it in your free time, but if you've got like a side project or like something you're passionate about, and it could be anything. Like personally, I love board games, just something I do in my free time. Constantly your design skills are getting better and better. So my graphics got better, or started doing 3D printing, stuff like that. So yeah, just find something that you really enjoy and, commit some free time to it, I'd say. And then not only have you got, the rest of your bodies of work, but you've got your own personal work, which is, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Which makes you stand out, I'd say.
I guess that's a topic that we've spoken about recently is mental well-being and what people do to sort of get out of sort of the hustle and bustle of work and bits and pieces, or even life sometimes. And very fortunate that the hobby provides well-being to a lot of people. I know you both model now, but do you still find that as rewarding at the same time that you work on the product? It's a bit of a tricky question because if your job becomes your hobby, or hobby becomes your job, it's one can start to take over the other.
Yeah. I mean, I've recently got back into doing a bit of modelling. So now my children are a little bit older, and I can have stuff lying about and know that they're not going to try and eat it.
Yeah.
It's but no, I've made some little models recently, and it's sort of discovering new skills and being able to relate to you sort of read all the internet forums and meet people at shows and being able to relate to the issues that they have and the comments that they have. And the other thing is I recently joined a modelling club.
Yep.
Which is they meet once a month. So shout out to Medway Modelling Club if there's anyone listening from there. They meet once a month in a church hall. Put some big tables out in the middle full of everyone's models that they've been making during the month. So you see everyone's like all this amazing work that people have been doing. Different types of modelling, different standards, but everyone is appreciative of it all. And it's just about going on there, meeting new people, and you end up chatting to people, and you don't mention modelling once, but it's just really nice to be in a sort of space where everyone feels comfortable and just have a bit of time just being able to relate with each other.
Yeah, some
really
common
nice.
interests and stuff.
Yeah.
That's really really interesting. And if you're looking or interested in joining a model club, I guess Google is mostly the best place, but the IPMS website also lists a number of modelling clubs, forums. You'll be able to find a local modelling club. And of course, Models for Heroes offer a number of modelling outlets if you're serving or ex-serving forces or emergency services and are looking for that sort of that bit of rest in modelling. So that's good fun. How about yourself?
Yeah, as I say, still doing it in my free time. I mean, as you're saying, all day you're doing it at work. Every time we get prototypes, test shots, everyone's so excited and happy, and everyone just crowds around while we're all building it.
All I can hear in the office is someone filing.
Yeah,
which is either a really good sign or a really bad sign that something's not been quite designed right. But normally to be fair, it's the 3D prototypes that are being filed down, not the tool.
Yeah.
Test shots. It's just God, even the designers are having to file it down. No, it's the prototypes because obviously the tolerances on those are a bit different, aren't they?
Yeah. As I say, I mean, we all do it because we enjoy it.
So you've done. Some viewers may recognise Ethan from a couple of air shows this year as well. So managed to get you out and about to Riyadh. Was your Riyadh was your first, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bournemouth.
Yep.
Duxford.
Yep.
They're the three so far. Both of you are planning to go to Scale Model World in November as well. So I think most of the team will be up at Telford over the 2 days. So if you have any questions that we don't cover off today, and we get a chance to cover off, definitely go and catch them up at Telford. You know what they look like now as well.
Just don't ask me what products I'm doing.
No,
because I will not be telling you.
No, we're carrying. Let's move on.
Yeah.
How did you find those air shows? Had you ever been to air shows before?
So, where my home is quite close to Duxford. So I'd gone a couple of times when I was younger, but then moving away. To be honest, I haven't been to any in a long time. It's the sort of thing where I've probably been out of the loop of aircraft and all these different things. So I was just like, I'll throw myself right back in. Really, the best way to learn it all and see it all. And it's exciting because.
And Riyadh was your first, which is pretty
amazing. It's just so much stuff all the time. Luckily, where we were with our tent, just quickly look out the back and just see everything taking off a landing and all different shows. Which is a really good experience. I mean, I must have liked it because I went to 2 more after that.
Yeah,
so,
well, I'd already signed you up.
Yeah,
so.
I had no choice.
And Bournemouth, of course, which was very different, being out down on the beach in a different audience for us. So all the shows we've done this year have been a great success.
Yeah,
so,
great talking to loads of different people about it. Everyone's super friendly and interested. So
just not what you've
I've done, which I was asked many times, and I can't tell you.
Next year,
Yeah.
Next year, January, you'll be able to tell people. Not at Telford. We're not announcing anything at Telford, or certainly not planning on announcing anything at Telford at the moment. Just in case any of you are wondering, I know we have in the past, not always, but nothing this year. Certainly not planning to just yet, which sounds mental because Telford is just over a month away.
Yeah.
which reminds me, I need to sit down with you and go through the planning of it all. One reason why this video is a little bit late, because there's been a lot going on. What challenges do you come across as a designer for Airfix?
I think, since I've been here, the one thing that has really struck me is how how high people's expectations are compared to 12, 13 years ago. When you look, occasionally you have to open up projects that like some of the earlier stuff I've done over a decade ago, and you think, God, this looks really basic compared to what we're doing now. But at the time, that was as good as we could do. Like the computer, the amount of memory on the computer and the graphics and that was what it could handle. But the people expect more research to be done, finer details, more parts. To sort of, for a project, an equivalent project to what we were doing a decade ago, the amount of more research and time spent engineering it through has increased massively.
Do you remember what your first project? What was your first project? Of course, you don't remember it.
So the first project I worked on was the two Bedford QL and the QLT World War II trucks.
Yeah, sort of a double pack. There's two in one, isn't it? Yeah.
Which was a really nice project to get into, actually. One of the sort of overriding memories of Airfix I had when I was little, which explains why I've got the Guy quad on the table there. Is my dad had a big box full of all of the 76 scale military vehicles, which I used to think were brilliant, and I used to use them as inspiration to make Lego models. So I used to use, because it was like before the days of the internet, that was like my reference material. So I used to sort of bring one down and I'd sit and make it out of Lego or Lego Technic. I think the best one I did was a big Scammell tank transporter out of Lego Technic, and it had all the suspension moved and that. So it sort of followed on nicely, because it's the same scale and the same theme. It followed on nicely from some of those models.
Do you remember how it felt when that finally got into the market? Did you go and buy any?
I've got one at home, and I've got one that I made up and painted. That's the first one that I designed, so I've got to make one properly.
So you always look for it. I bet you always look for it when you go into a model store somewhere.
Yeah.
You strike me as someone when every time you go in, you go on holiday somewhere and you see a model store, you're like, sorry, love, I've got to go in.
Yeah.
Love, I've got to go in and have a look. And I bet you are rooting through those shelves.
Mills about by the store owner and goes, "That's a really cool kit you got there. What's that one?" Whoever designed that must be a genius.
I find myself restacking the shelves and bringing all the Airfix stuff forward. And just and they leave and I'm like, bloody hell, that looks good. All right, see you later. Who do you work for then? Oh, I don't know, just a water company somewhere.
But yeah, at the time we didn't have a full-time researcher. We didn't have a researcher at all, so it was all down to the designer. So I remember going down to see a guy down in Appledore, down towards East Sussex, and we went up to Chelmsford, I think, and there was a guy up there. He was super helpful. We had a couple in a big barn. So to come straight into a job and be sort of out and about, sort of climbing over military vehicles and sort of trips down to see. I think we went down to Bournemouth to see the Civics, and that was my second day. So I was like, cool, this is all right.
Yeah.
I think
And that Civics was flying at the time as well, wasn't it? Or
yeah,
just about to.
But yeah, it was based down in Bournemouth Airport. Yeah.
I remember that. It can't. I mean, it never gets old for me when I get up close with the subject, the military subject. Would be that a tank or an aircraft or a ship or anything like that. What was your? I'm just trying really hard not to talk about what you've done, but you've been on these research trips now, and your first project, even though you've been here 10 months, you've just or just about to finish your third project now. So what was it like going out to the subject, your first subject?
Yeah, once again, I'm pretty sure it was my first day or something like that I went down to see it. It's kind of nice in a way because I've picked up a lot more of the knowledge now, but especially back then I don't know anything about it. I'll luckily go with the researcher, Luke, which you've probably seen.
Yeah.
Seeing the stuff, so I'm like, oh, what's this? What's that? And I'm trying to think of like all the different things about it, and it's so fresh and like new, and it's not something I've really got to do. So it's super exciting to do that, and then obviously as you work through a project, you learn it all. You think, God, the first time I saw that, I didn't even know what it was.
It's a yeah. Oh no! Sorry. Right. Okay. I feel like I just can't talk to you now, Ethan. Yeah, this is really difficult to sit here and talk to you. I didn't realise how difficult it was going to be. That must be quite an interesting dynamic for the team, Matt, having new people come in and see things from a different angle. Do you think that's what makes the team gel so well, and one of the things that really helps each project improve?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the team is kind of we've all got a really strong interest in, sort of military history, aviation, and modelling, but we've all got sort of little areas that we're sort of more interested in than others. Sort of like I absolutely love sort of Second World War and the sort of immediate post-war stuff. Paramjit's more interested in the sort of Cold War and modern stuff. So with each project, you pick up more knowledge about each area, and you can sort of feed off each other. And so at the moment, I think the team works really well. Everyone sort of has a lot of banter with each other, and it's not just like the work side of things. It's kind of everyone sort of into their, watches the same TV programs and into the same sports and things like that. So it's a really really nice little team.
Yeah, I must admit, hearing Ethan talk about TV programs and sport,
football,
which is not a thing I particularly enjoy, sport, but a number of people in that end of the office will sort of just come to life.
Yeah,
that's quite nice. Everyone's getting on.
It's a very easygoing, collaborative atmosphere, really, where if you want to ask questions, just ask a question. You don't have to worry about anything. It's just go with the flow sort of thing.
Some of the guys have obviously relocated to work down here as well. You used to live up near Duxford, so
so I was in Essex and I'd say Huddersfield for a while. So that's mainly where I was from. So I just relocated
for
the job.
Relocated for the job, and some of the others have as well. So that's quite good that everyone gets on really well.
Yeah.
From a design point of view, I mean, it must be quite good that you've got someone fresh out of uni that's just gone and worked for a sort of multi-billion toy company with those sort of insights. Are you able to influence other design elements in existing?
I think
and vice versa. I know you two sit next to each other, so that experience for you sat just to your left is really valuable.
It's a thing where it's definitely if you're not sure on something, it's very easy for everyone else has very constructive opinions. So, and everyone knows their stuff. I'd say everyone on our team, they really know their stuff. So if you're not too sure about something, you can instantly get everyone to help you. So if Matt's stuck on something, you can ask the whole team. We'll all put in our advice and then can find the best path through that. Same for me. Obviously, I ask a lot more questions because I'm quite new. But I think that's the best way to go forward. It gets the best product in the end. Yeah. The more people who have a hand in it, the best.
It's amazing how you turn 1 minute and everyone's got their headphones in and just getting on with it, which is great to see. And then the next minute, everyone's got their headphones up and it's like, you got to do it. A box turns up in the office, everyone's like, what's in the box? Test shots of anything they don't know. or Martin has just received pre-shipment samples from our suppliers out in India, and it's just I try and make a point now of not diving in the box.
Yeah.
I leave it because Martin's obviously got a job to do with checking all that stuff before I go in and start ripping all my samples out, and so leave it with Martin. He'll bring them to me when he's ready, and then on to these guys behind the camera going, I need all of this as soon as possible, please. So that's good. You mentioned briefly how things have changed from a design point of view, quality of design. Well, no, you can't really say quality of design because back then that was sort of the best that we could offer. But
so sort of, in the past we would have had a few drawings out of a book and whatever scraps of information we could find. Now we're sort of going out, we're finding, we had me and the researcher Luke a couple of weeks ago. We was down in a certain part of the country, actually sort of cataloguing. We actually we digitised about 1,000 manufacturers' drawings for a future project. But we've also brought laser scanning in-house, so we're actually doing all that ourselves, so we can process all the data, get exactly what we want. And we've recently got a really nice resin 3D printer that we can use, so we can iterate designs much more quickly and sort of print stuff out, see how it goes together, change stuff, print another one, which really helps the design process speed things up.
And that's before you've gone to prototype.
Well,
so it's like a pre-prototype.
Yeah, well, that's part of the prototyping process. Yeah.
I remember when I was here before. It was shortly before I left, so it must be about 8 or 9 years ago. A guy turned up in the car park and they were scanning a car, like 3D scanning a car.
Yeah.
And all the sort of designers went out there and was like, "Oh my God, look at this!" And then I come back and Luke's just got a 3D scanner in a backpack and a tripod, and he's like, "Right, I see you in a couple of days. I'm just going to do a quick tour of the country and scan as much as I could possibly get hold of." And he comes back with far more than he was ever briefed on doing.
Yeah. Oh, well, now we've got that capability in-house rather than scanning one particular subject. Luke's literally going to a museum and scanning the entire hall. So you might get 10, 15 aircraft in one go. You can archive all that data and then just process the bit you need when the time comes. So it's a much more efficient process.
Yeah.
Much cheaper as well.
Yeah, well, paying someone to go and do it. Well, Luke is part of his role, and I know an element he certainly enjoys. He's been up to one of the RAF museums up in Cosford.
Cosford, yeah.
And we're helping the museum up there. I'm sure they don't mind me telling you this, but Luke scanned a whole hangar for him, hasn't he?
Yep.
So we've got all of the data. Every angle we possibly need for all the data, and we've given them all the files, and they're looking to use the data to relocate a number of aircraft in that space. Obviously, it's cardboard cutouts on a table and trying to measure it and work out if that tail fin's going to touch the nose of that or whatever it is. So so that's great that we're able to share that data for another purpose. And I know someone was talking about using the data for VR because it takes the 3D scanning, I believe, also takes photos, colour photos.
Yeah.
So quite often when I walk past that machine up in the office, it's all in colour. The people look a bit weird because they're all
moving around,
like ghosts.
Yeah, moving around, and Luke's in it. I don't know how many times, but I guess that's huge advancement in our processes internally. And I know that 3D printer is very new. That must have only turned up shortly after your arrival.
Yeah, not too long after.
I know you guys are constantly queuing stuff up.
I use it all the time now.
I heard you say this morning, how does this queue work then?
There is some. Get in as quickly as you can.
Where's the list of the queue?
No, it just saves us a lot of time, doesn't it? We can actually, more do rapid prototyping. If there's something we're not too sure about, rather than waiting however long, just test it out. Doesn't work, quickly change it, test it again. Just speeds up our whole process a lot more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are sharing each run. if you like, in the machine with other departments, brands in the building as well. So you're not just, I don't know, 6 hours to wait for this thing to appear out of a vat of whatever it is. Yeah, there's a number of other things all lined up at the same time, so it's not wasted time.
Cram the bed full of as much stuff as possible. Like the other day, what was 3 different projects all on there, just various parts. Took a day to do it. But at the end of that, everyone's got their stuff ready. So it's definitely the most effective way to do it as like a team, really.
Do you know what sort of 3D printer it is?
It's a Formlabs 3L, so it's really nice big bed. We can get like a whole fuselage half in there or a wing. Really nice resolution. So yeah, impressive bit of kit.
Because I know I've been in there and looked at it and just gone, this is nicer than that. And then just, not sure I'm allowed to be in here, and then just walked out.
Yeah,
but
don't press any buttons.
just bump Matt to the top of the queue, usually. But you've got the 3D printer, and then you've got like a curing station, and then a dip or something like a deep fat fryer, or
to wash it all.
And some big rubber gloves in there. So that's cool.
Yeah, and it was really interesting getting to grips with, because that was a kind of a new thing, because we used to farming that side of it out, getting to grips with the different processes involved in that. It was quite interesting and gives you a new appreciation of how that side of things works. And certainly it's sort of 10 years ago when 3D printers were sort of becoming something that you could have at home rather than just in specialist sort of prototyping companies. They've come on in absolute leaps and bounds. Crazy how much they've improved. Yeah.
And it's just nice to just knock out anything you want. Like,
another chess piece.
Time. Yeah, do whatever.
Yeah. How do you think 3D printing is going to change the modelling industry?
I think there's some really good opportunities for certainly the aftermarket, sort of offering sort of different weapons, conversion sets, sort of detail upgrades. I'm not sure if sort of whole kit, if it's quite there for whole kits. The bits still need quite a lot of work, because you can see the layers, and the parts can warp over time, so they're not as sort of dimensionally stable as styrene is yet. But certainly, like for people that have got the printers at home, sort of for them to be able to print out their own sort of conversion parts or sort of upgrade parts for kits, I think is a really exciting sort of.
I mean, I think to get to the level, kits we have, you'd have to spend so much money on 3D printers and all the other stuff. I think, as you were saying, Matt, aftermarket makes sense for little bits. And maybe a slight different variant or version you want of a kit, print out a little bit there and add it. But they're getting there. They're getting there.
Yeah. Of course, the 3D printer is just a piece of hardware. You still need to know how to work the software.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you still need the design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about 3D printers and getting them in at home, but that's great if you're an industrial designer and you've got a 3D printer at home, and it's just like, fine, I can print whatever I want at, because I can design whatever I want. Yeah. If you just bought a 3D printer and have no design background, I can imagine that's quite a challenging and frustrating process. Although I know there's loads of sort of free download sites and bits and pieces, but whether you can download a Glostometer F8 and then then build it as a kit, it's mostly going to take you a lot of time to pull that together into your 3D printer, print it, and then sit there and smooth it all out, because it always looks quite grainy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And for the sake of buying a 20 odd quid kit.
Yeah, exactly.
But then if you enjoy the sort of design and printing element, then that just becomes part of the hobby. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it if it takes 4 weeks to pull a kit together because you've enjoyed it. So
it's like you see a lot of people, you buy a kit and then they'll make stuff or just get stuff, free online CAD to just make dioramas, things like that. So kind of merge the two.
Yeah.
I mean, to get the kit, obviously so much easier and more accessible. It's all there. The schemes are there. You know what paint you need to use. then you can add your little bits of your scenery and more personalise it to yourself.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were asking about that with the Buccaneer, because we were able to include things like the ladders and some of the blanking plates.
Yeah, for the intakes.
Which were great. And I remember someone saying, "Oh, have you got any chocks?" You know, and bits and pieces like, well, where do you stop adding plastic and therefore cost to a product?
Yeah.
You know, will everyone use chocks? And I know they're really small, so you know, maybe we could have added them, but at what point do you stop? And 3D printing comes in and sort of helps that element. No, it's quite interesting. I guess.
It's definitely something worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the Humbrol were, I think they're just releasing a 3D printer. I don't think that's a secret anymore. But yeah, that's certainly a very different level to the one we've got in the other room.
Yeah, it's much more entry level.
Yeah. But that'd be quite interesting to see what people come up with that for the modelling world. Matt, we've spoken about your first project here. Ethan, we can't talk about yours. And we also can't talk about your most recent project.
No, it is blank.
Blank. Followed by blank.
Followed by redacted.
Yeah. Matt, what's your most recent project, brackets, that has been announced? Because I know what you're working on.
So it would have been the starter set cars. That was the most recent projects that have certainly that have come to market. In terms of aviation, it would be the Avro Anson,
which I did put behind you actually, just as a little cheeky prop. The box is open because Nathan behind the camera has doing some of our unboxings for it.
So there we go.
How did you find this project?
It was a great project. It was started sort of in the deepest sort of depths of lockdown, so researching it was a bit of an effort. We managed to just, I think there was a break between the two of the various lockdowns where we managed to get into Duxford to go and have a look at their one. But no, it's absolutely fascinating aircraft, and it's a bit of an unsung hero, because although it sort of didn't see that much sort of front line action, it was an absolute vital sort of training and sort of liaison aircraft. So sort of all the crews that would have ended up, you know, in sort of Bomber Command flying the Lancasters and Halifaxes, things like that, would have come through training on the Anson, whether they were bomb aimers, navigators, radio operators. So it's really super important aircraft.
Yeah. Whenever I think of sort of the projects you're working on, Matt, I would certainly have picked that out as your sort of style.
Yeah,
of aircraft, a bit of sort of Art Deco type thing.
And certainly the last the sort of similar kit I did was the Bristol Blenheim, similar size, similar sort of era, and it was really nice to sort of compare the two different airframes. You know, one's was a sort of much more powerful, much faster. But I was surprised how big the Anson was actually when I got the SLA model back. I was quite surprised how chunky it was. Yeah. So
I remember that we sat it straight next to the I did put it next to the Buccaneer.
Yeah.
And I started lining up all the recent sort of 48 scale stuff. I was like, look at that! Look how big that is. You've spoken about the Anson during the YouTube Creators Day that we had here, which was fascinating to hear your insights on the design process, and also the Anson at Duxford and what to look out for on it, because that's one thing that we were always really careful on, is whilst we can go out and 3D scan these things, the actual aircraft in a museum might not be quite what it seems, or indeed finished how the flying aircraft was. So there was some correct me if I'm wrong, but the Anson is built up of sort of three main materials. The sort of fabric, the stretched fabric, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's plywood on the wings, and then around the nose you've got some. I think it's actually magnesium around the nose, nose skin. But I mean, the aircraft at Duxford, it was flying up into the 70s as like an aerial photography sort of platform.
Okay.
So I had a few modifications done to it. So I had the later metal tailplane put on it, which is a really different shape. So we made sure that we've put the correct sort of wooden tailplane on it. The nose cone isn't quite the right shape. So we actually managed to get hold of a 3D scan of a real metal nose cone rather than fiberglass nose cone for an Anson. And also a lot of the interior isn't present in the one at Duxford. So I was got a lot of information from a guy called Bill Reed, who owns the sort of one of the only flying Mark 1 Anson down in New Zealand, and the interior of his aircraft is absolutely superbly restored. It's got all the right fixtures and fittings in it. So I worked with him.
Shout out to Bill. Thank you very much, Bill. So it sounds of it, without Bill's information, then we would never have got quite as far or as much information in the interior. Which the interior of the Anson is out of this world. I know there's a couple of bits in there that you are really fond on.
Yeah. There's a little angle poise lamp for the navigator, so he can see his charts and maps. And then the radio sets as well, sort of researching all the different, you've got the transmitter, the receiver, the power supply, all those bits, and sort of working out where they all fit in the rack of radio equipment. That was really interesting.
Yeah, amazing. And of course, the beauty with that aircraft is it's just a greenhouse.
Yeah.
So it's just glass. So, unlike a Wellington, that 72nd scale Wellington that we released a few years ago, and all that interior detail, and then you just close the shell up around the body, the fuselage, and then you couldn't see it. Yeah,
no, this has got some nice big clear windows to see in, so you can really show off all your work on the interior.
Yeah. Any other features on the Anson kit that people can look forward to? There's a couple of turret types.
So we've got we can make it with or without the turret. So if you want to in the future make a sort of a unarmed sort of transport version, we've got the capability to do that. We've got different engine cowlings, so sort of early and late styles, and then you've got the early and late windscreen type as well.
The sexy slopey windscreen, and not so. That's how I know them, just from talking to Matt. And there's different aerials on the top as well. There's a sort of ceiling hanging aerial. People are just going to crucify me now. There's a big round loop, which I always just imagine people hanging it up.
I also thought that as well.
What a design feature! So on Ethan's, all three of Ethan's products, there's also that aerial.
Yeah, everything has a ceiling hanger.
Yeah, everything. It doesn't matter
Even
what it is.
Doesn't have wings.
Yeah. So, good.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
It's not long now. It's on the water. So, we just look at the container listings and track the ships and hope that they keep on heading our way.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out as soon as we can.
Yep.
Next month, obviously, plenty of time for Scale Model World.
Yep.
As well. So you can't talk about your most recent kit.
No.
But I guess what we can say though is, the last year or so, there's been a lot of focus on starter sets and the work that's gone into those. And I know everyone in the team has been involved in those, even though one person is sort of owns the projects per se. All the designers have got involved in those, and that's sort of where you've been. So some starter sets are certainly an area to look out for from us next year. I think Paramjit let a load of stuff slip before, so there's going to be no surprise there. Thank you, Paramjit. Classic. We didn't even beat that bit out, so you'll have to go back and look for that one now and listen to that. I think he was in that video, wasn't he? Paramjit,
possibly.
Yeah. Sat there kicking him, saying, "No, don't say that." So that must be that's quite cool to see those come out, and obviously
Yeah,
starter sets are sort
definitely.
of more mass market than the Anson, for example.
I mean, I will say about like mentioning going to multiple shows as well. Obviously, we do make and paint. Great opportunity to see how younger audience copes with model kits. Definitely picking stuff up from that with what we should do with starter kits. What bits they struggle with, what bits are easier. It's definitely I love the direction it's going.
Yeah,
cool.
Right, don't say any more.
Yeah.
Most favourite project? You've not answered that.
Favourite project? I think the one I'm most proud of is the Handy Page Victor. It's probably the biggest project I've worked on.
So over your shoulder. As well.
Yeah, certainly some of the research that went into that was quite extensive because the Victor changed so much. And so you've got like, and there's obviously the Mark 1, Mark 2. We modelled the Mark 2, but even that, there's a lot of different changes to do with the wings, different aerials and sensors and things like that went up in the bomb bay that we had to take into account. And we had a fantastic trip up to Elvington, up near York. Climbed all over the airframe up there, which is called Lusty Lindy. The guys that look after that were super helpful. Let us climb all over it, literally all over it, up into the cockpit. They ran up one of the engines for us, which was quite impressive.
There's no need for that. You just
no, they just wanted to play with their toys, I think. But yeah, and there was quite a nice story. We actually found some original Handy Page drawings that were thought lost, but we actually found them in our storeroom in Margate. And they'd actually been sent to Frog when Frog did their little 1 to 96 count kit in the 50s, I think it was, or 60s. And the drawings had been kept safe all that time. So we actually came across them. They were invaluable for the kit, but then we did return them to the Handy Page Association so they can be archived with the rest of the surviving drawings.
We returned them. We should have put them on the internet for a handsome fee.
Just a photocopy we gave them.
Yeah,
Kept the real ones.
we've got the originals. That's cool. That's great.
That was really nice.
Yeah. You can't talk about your most favourite project, but would you say it's 1, 2, or 3?
Nothing at the moment. I'm going to say 1.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I'm just so excited because that's the first one as well.
I'm really excited about one.
It was great fun, especially the first one.
Yeah.
To grips with, and I'm pretty proud of it. So.
It means absolutely nothing to anyone.
Yeah.
Apart from us, so let's move on. I think actually we've covered most of the questions. Is there anything that you think would be really important for a wannabe designer, or what do you get asked a lot when you're at shows?
I think with certainly with designing model kits, a huge part of it is the research. So if you've got that kind of sort of foundation of interest in the subject or interest in the history that goes with it, that's sort of probably just as important as your technical ability, because some of these projects can be, you could be working on the same project for a year, and you've got to be able to stay motivated and focused on that subject. And if you see it just as another, design project to get out the door, you're going to lose interest, and it's going to get really difficult. But if you're passionate about the subject matter, and you want to pick up the book and read about the guys that flew them, and read about what battles they were involved in, and who designed it and why they were designed the way they were, you're going to stay interested in it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've been here for so long, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, my project's going back and forth with Luke constantly, finding out maybe too much information, just know everything about it. But that's the best way, really, because especially we were saying earlier about getting to visit things. So interesting that you get to see it up close, and it just makes for a whole exciting process.
It's really good until Luke sends you his
Yes.
his report of
Sends his, these are the shapes or what's wrong with it. And I said, why didn't you tell me this in the first place?
and he goes, I emailed you 2 months ago. Right, thanks for joining me today and taking time out of your busy schedules. It's been great fun. Hopefully our viewers have enjoyed it as well and gleaned some insight on how to be a designer and you guys, I can't take any credit for what you guys do, get up to, which is great. So thanks very much.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure. And again next month. It sounds good. We still can't talk about it. So thanks very much for watching and listening into us. Don't forget to subscribe. That really helps us a lot. And also comment in the buttons below on what you'd like to see us talk about next. So thanks very much and join us next time. Cheers. Bye.